Mr. Rainwater.
Hey, Joe.
You've long spoken about, hopefully, or you've contemplated the thought of adapting Trailer Park Warlock into another medium, such as animation.
Sure. Yeah.
Have you, as a artist, I almost said content creator, God damn it,
Fuck you.
as an artist, considered if you were to do that, basically everything that's already happened that you've done as a webcomic would spoil the point of it being an animation? Would you keep it would you just keep it a strict adaptation, or would you, tonight we're talking about spoilers, everybody. Would you keep it as a strict adaptation, or would you
Yeah.
change it, or just do something entirely different? Like,
That's an interesting question because I think that. Oh man. So like a lot of things that get adapted from, particularly with comic books, I feel like
mm,
there is oftentimes an almost anal like desire by the audience that the movie adaptation needs to be 100% like the comic book,
mm,
right? And I've seen it done, right? Like Zack Snyder's adaptation of 300, pretty much 100% that book.
mm.
It's fine. It's good. It's a good adaptation, but at a certain level, it sort of turns into this thing of like Zack Snyder was putting himself through a technical challenge, and we get to watch him accomplish his technical challenge. And this is not really the point of why we're talking about this. I'm just
No,
complaining right now.
okay.
I do think that if you're gonna go from one medium to the other, there needs to be some kind of, for lack of a better word, like a justification for why you're even bothering to do that.
Okay, Alan Moore.
Yeah, no, I am going with the Alan Moore route. The problem is with Alan Moore, like he never fucking bothered with it, and like his own transition from comics to film was not that great, or so far. I'll give him another chance if he tries again. But I think the main thing is like people have often had this idea that like, oh well, comics are just storyboarding for film and television. It's like not really. You can, right? Like that
Yeah.
was earlier I was talking about with Zack Snyder. Like you can do it like that, but I think you kind of missed the point for both medium. You know, like there are things that you can do in film that you really can't do in comics, and there are things you can do in comics that you really can't do in film. And it all has to do with using the medium to the fullest extent of what you can do. Like you can tell a very non-linear story in comics in a way that you couldn't in film, because film is so definitively linear as a format.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to talking about Alan Moore definitely tried that in some of his titles. He tried that with he had a run on Swamp Thing where him and the artist that he was working with, they tried very intently to make it a story that works specifically for comics. So you would have these very weird panel layouts that you could not replicate in any way, like in film and television. Time would be messed around with, composition would be messed around with, to where you were sometimes reading the entire page instead of reading panel to panel. So for me, I mean, with Trailer Park Warlock, I think my readers would be happy with just a straightforward adaptation. But I would be tempted to sort of do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sort of, let's twist some things here, let's change some things there.
Keep them on their toes.
Yeah, just to, I think for me, give a justification for making it in a different medium. Not only just a justification, but just also like, I think the main thing I would do is probably just tweak the story to make it more.
It would be another rewrite.
Yeah, exactly. Like in a certain ways, it would be another rewrite for sure.
So
Um,
really the question that I'm asking is though is do you feel that by doing a stricter adaptation, I mean, even if you did a rewrite to some extent, it's still going to be mostly the same story, which is the question that I end up asking is, do you know like do you feel like you're robbing your established fans of something rewarding by you know what I mean like or fresh I should say to go
yeah,
corporate on you by just delivering the same old thing, going back to the well, as they say.
that is, I mean, that is another issue, right? Like, and I think a lot of times, so like, let's talk about the Harry Potter series, right? The Harry Potter series got turned into movies, I think not as much to appeal to fans. Fans were going to watch these movies anyway. I think that it was ultimately more of a way of advertising the overall franchise to people who were not familiar with Harry Potter.
Mm.
Because a lot of people who watched the movies then went to go read the books because they would then have the conversation with their friends who did read the books. And their friends would be like, "Oh, well, the books are so different. You got to do this and this and this and read
Were
about
they? I
this."
don't know. I've never seen the
Apparently,
movies
they
or
are.
watched the
I've
book or read the
never,
books.
I've never read the books, but like I've had conversations with people that are like, "Oh yeah, the movies leave out all these nuances and important aspects of the story, and some of the stuff that's left out in the story, like in the story in the movie, makes the story like an entirely different kind of attitude.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot more stuff that's about like classism and like um it's a lot there's a lot more world building. Although there's plenty of world building in the Harry Potter movies, but like there's a lot that's left out in regards to addressing classist attitudes amongst people within Hogwarts and the overall world. And it to me that actually like kind of removes a lot of what I think is supposed to be the themes of the story, but I've only ever watched the movies. So to me, the movies seem like complete gobbledygook. Like I don't understand why anything happens. I don't understand what the motivation is supposed to be for Voldemort. I don't understand why we should give a shit at all about Harry Potter. But then I've heard people talk about the books. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's all contained within the books. And so if you're just watching the movies, if you're watching the movies having read the books, it all makes sense and it's just cliff notes.
Mm.
If you're watching the movies and you're just like somebody who's never read the movie or read the books, at least for me, it was just like, why is anything happening?
Which explains why I didn't get that. I don't think I've gotten past the first or second movie. I don't remember really what was going on. My wife has forced me to watch them. And I've maybe watched the first one or two. I think I've seen pieces of Gary Oldman in it, and then I think I've seen like the big lightsaber showdown in the last one or something.
Yeah.
And like that's the extent of my Harry Potter knowledge. I think there was the giant spider at one point. Most of the time I wasn't paying attention. I was either clicking on my phone or drinking or sleeping. One of those three things. And that explains why I couldn't have gotten into them.
And that's the thing is like that's kind of what bothers me about the idea of doing an adaptation is I would not want to go that route where it's like the adaptation's just cliff notes of the original work, because not only getting to the original point, right, of like because everybody kind of knows what's going to happen already.
Sure.
That in itself is like
good will defeat evil. Harry Potter will beat Voldemort.
I mean, that kind of, to me, that does take out a certain amount of intrigue or interest in the story overall.
Yeah.
But also because, like, I think that it ultimately creates this area where you can end up making a less good story because you're just doing the things that are, you know, maybe what the executive producers would want or whatever. You're trying to just, like, water it down or dumb it down to the most basic elements. And I've definitely thought about this where to me it would be interesting to go at it as a rewrite, but also like maybe do a different same all the same sort of elements but in a slightly different setting. So like the story takes place in Colorado. What if it was set in Louisiana or some other rural area? Like you can make adjustments there, and so that creates like opportunities for sort of tweaks you could make on some of the humor, some of the plot points, whatever. Um, I don't think I would go that far, but I would definitely think about, like, I would look at it from sort of a rewrite standpoint, you know.
Would you be looking to insert new things in there as surprises though? Like maybe the same overall story is the same, but would you put surprises in there?
Yeah, I mean, because there'll be new ideas that come up, There'll be like, oh, I could do this joke in a totally different way.
Mm.
I could have these characters meet in a totally different way, or I could go into more detail about
You couldn't
maybe the
have like a
relationship.
you wouldn't do anything drastic though, like kill off a character or
Depends.
bring somebody back from the dead or something crazy like that. Because I mean, really, the heart of what I'm trying to get at right now is like, how would you feel if it was, say, you were producing a animated series? It would be understandably a few seasons, right? And at the end of season one, like it's a big deal, and like that 100,000 Webtoon subscribers that you got have turned into like 3 million viewers. You know what? Like all of a sudden, and then not all of those 3 million viewers clearly are going to have read the Webtoon because it's only about 100,000, right? So
Yeah.
then all of a sudden some jackass goes on Twitter and starts posting the frames from season 2 of,
Sure.
oh, you think this is gonna happen? Nope, Jake does this, da 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 da,
Yeah.
and completely like fucks it over for his entire timeline. How would you like react to something like that? I mean, granted, it would have to be, the basis of what spoiler they let out there, but as a creator, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I don't know. I knew that Snape killed Dumbledore well before I ever watched any movie or whatever, and it never really impacted me in any particular way. But I was never that into Harry Potter series, right? To keep going with our analogy, I mean, I think there is a certain argument. There is a certain part of me that's like, well, the original material's fucking there. If you don't want to read it, that's your problem. Like,
But spoilers are kind of something forced upon you. Most times there are
That's
people
the
who
idea, right?
there are people who seek them out. Don't get me wrong. Like I've gone to message boards because I couldn't contain my hype for some upcoming movie, Spider-Man. Oh, is Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in it? I gotta know.
Yeah.
Looking for things and shit like that. But at the other time, some people just blatantly post shit.
I don't usually, honestly, I don't usually watch most television series or read most books until I've actually read the plot synopsis. And then if I like the plot synopsis and I want to see how all these things connect together, I'll go and actually read the book or whatever. And for me, my attitude has always been, if the story's good enough, knowing all the events isn't going to impact my ability to enjoy it. Now, that being said, there are definitely a lot of stories where I had no idea going in. I just had a good feeling about the story that, I was going to like it, where it does create, I do think that there is a certain impact that comes from that first time experience. For sure. I mean, I had actually had that kind of in a weird way today, where I found this history book that's about the historical beginnings of the MK Ultra program that the CIA did, that was investigating into psychic phenomenon and all this other stuff. So I already have a lot of background understanding of all that, but I didn't understand a lot of the early historical stuff, like how apparently Britain did an intelligence campaign where they were influencing United States astrologers to make people want to get into World War II so that they could fight with Britain against the Nazi invasion.
Wow.
And it goes into deep end stuff like that, where you just go, oh shit, this goes so much deeper than I thought any of it would go.
Yeah.
But my point is I had kind of a first time experience with stuff I already had some background knowledge with. So I definitely get the idea where that's valuable in itself, right? You're only going to ever have that first time one time.
Yeah.
Right? It's only going to be one time you're going to like hear a song for the first time. There's only ever going to be one time that, you know, you're going to see a movie for the first time. And definitely, I think there is an attitude where we all want to keep that as a sacred space, right?
Yeah.
Because that is like the make or break point at which you decide whether or not you enjoy something a lot of the time. I mean, like, go ahead.
Well, because we talk on this show a lot about how execution is the key to pulling something off in art. You know what I mean? Like, it's really about the execution. It's never about the what or the who or the why. It's really about a combination of all those things into how it's executed. And spoilers are the dumbed down, oversimplified, almost condescending version of executing similar ideas. It's like, so Last Jedi, right? And I apologize to everybody listening to this who hasn't seen all these things that we're going to be referencing, but we're talking about spoilers. We're going to be referencing a lot of things and spoiling a lot of things, which is kind of contradictory. But The Last Jedi, Yoda shows up and he's a puppet, right? Yeah. I had that spoiled for me, and when I say had it spoiled for me, I mean I sought it out before I went and saw the movie. And you see a screen cap of Yoda as a puppet, as a Force ghost, sitting there talking to Luke. That's what I saw. I saw a still picture of it. Yeah. Versus in the movie, I think you hear Yoda's voice off screen before you see him, and then when the camera slowly pans over and it reveals him and it shows him as a puppet. That execution might have made me like that moment more versus me just seeing a low-res screen grab on Reddit going, oh, Yoda's in the movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference in the spoiler versus the artistic reveal.
There is a counterpoint to spoilers, though, and that's hype, right? And, like, you were looking for those pictures of Yoda because you wanted to get hyped for the movie.
I was already hyped for the movie. It was just the fact that I was impatient.
Right, but that is part of the hype process. Is you're just like, I got to know whatever I can know about what's coming out, right? Like, because it's like it's an obsessive compulsion to want to take in as much as you can before the actual event, so that. I don't know, like I don't fully understand that mindset, I guess, but it's
impatience. In its rare in its rawest form, it's I want it now. I can't wait another 3 hours. Yeah. I need to start enjoying this now. And that's part of the reason why I'm having trouble losing weight. It's because I don't want to wait till tomorrow morning for pancakes. I'm in the mood for pancakes now. and you know what I mean? It is a personal flaw. I will say that. But it really comes down to the mindset of like, but, you know, back in the day, I used to be a leaker. So I used to be one of those people who would post things that, you know what I mean? So, like, the Dark Knight movie came out in 2008. So in 2007, I was big on message boards. And I had a couple of connections in the film industry. And I had people that were working on set and people that were working in the post-production department. And they shot me pictures from the fucking movie. You know what I mean? Like, Joker dressed in the nurse's outfit. And, like, I posted that on a message board, and I was the first person to post that shit. Fucking, I pissed off so many Warner Brothers executives and, like, other bloggers and stuff. Oh, you fucker, I didn't want to see that, da-da-da-da. And I was like, well, I didn't post it on your message board. I posted it on mine, and it just got around.
I remember that time pretty distinctly because the whole thing was really about, is this Joker going to work or not, right? Like, that was the big debate. You and me and Matt, like, we were constantly in this sort of discussion, this debate about it, because we couldn't quite connect the dots about how, like, this interpretation of the Joker was going to land. And it was, funnily enough, like, it was one of those things you could not spoil, even with all the images and pictures and stuff.
You had to experience the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You really had to watch the movie. And I think, like, on a certain level, I kind of feel like Warner Brothers might have CIA'd you and used you as a useful idiot,
that's absolutely...
You ended up doing their marketing for them.
That's absolutely a tactic that I believe takes place. Like, so more recently, we just talked about the Spider-Man thing with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. There is no fucking way in my mind that one CGI shot where one of the Spider-Mans gets hit by nothing, and like their face goes like backwards in the middle of a fight sequence where they digitally erased the villain in the shot.
Yeah.
And then it was in the trailer that leaked in Brazil. Like, it's an easy way to get headlines for your trailer without actually spoiling it. You know what I mean? It's just enough of an intrigue where people are like, oh, I bet that's Tobey Maguire that hit him. But we don't know for sure. And how do you know for sure? You buy a ticket and go see the movie.
Or what about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Like, remember, like, the first reveal of, like, Sonic? And
you think they were testing out the Sonic look?
Yeah! They were testing it out. They were seeing what audience reaction was. And then they did the brilliant thing of actually listening to the audience. And it ended up being, like, at that time, the highest grossing video game movie. Yeah. So, like, I do think that
they're definitely
in those departments think this stuff through and sort of have scenarios played out, like, okay, if they don't like this, then we'll do this. If they like that, we'll do this. Because like, these movies are such huge investments of money that in turn there are large investments of money that go into trying to ensure as much as possible that their investment actually gets them the reward that they're looking for.
They don't want to be boycotted before the thing or whatever happens because the Joker did this or does that. On the other hand, though, there were things that I leaked for The Dark Knight that they were in no way wanting me to do. So, for example, I had call sheets, which is the rundown of what they're filming for a day. Mm-hmm. And for Dark Knight, one of the call sheets talked about Gordon's death. Remember when Jim Gordon gets shot because he's protecting the mayor at the funeral or the wake for the existing police commissioner that the Joker did kill. And it said, Gordon's death or whatever like that. Gordon is shot and killed. And I, being a film major, knew how to read the call sheets. And the scene number was listed, and it was like scene number 54 or whatever like that. And then on another call sheet, it was like scene number 76. Gordon and Batman team up for blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, Gordon fakes his death, which he did in the movie. Was not part of any of the marketing material, was not was not in a TV spot, was not in a trailer, was not anything. Wasn't hyped as a thing, oh, will Jim Gordon survive or blah, 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 blah. It was a psych out that happened in the movie. And I was on the message board going up and down. Look at this. Connect the dots, guys. He fakes his death. He's definitely there. And then, my leaker shot me a thing or whatever. And it was like, oh, Gordon is revealed to be alive or whatever. And I was like, boom, there's the call sheet. Told you guys. That was a total spoiler. There's nothing about that Warner Brothers did not, that wasn't part of their marketing campaign. So people got pissed at me for posting about that. And it was like, well, you're ruining the experience of the movie, of taking that in, that thought, that misdirect. You know what I mean? That the artist was intending. Christopher Nolan and company were intending for us to be like, oh shit, they killed Jim Gordon. Like, Commissioner Gordon's not going to happen in this universe. Oh fuck. Now I really want the Joker to be, fucked up and caught or whatever like that. I don't know if that would have been the reaction that comic book fans would have given. But at the same time, because I spoiled it, do we know if that's what we would have reacted like? You know what I mean? Like, we lose a lot of artistic experimentation from spoilers, right? Because you're not seeing the piece as a whole when you do it. Right. When you're isolating a piece of information and putting that information out there, and then all of a sudden, out of context, it could be absolutely interpreted as horrible. And it's, you know what I mean? Even if you have the full circumstances of how it's executed, which we more often than not don't, but even if you did, you're still not looking at it in the broad spectrum of beginning to end of a story. And that, most of the time, never fares well for reactions. Like, you look at something, so we talked about Damien Chazelle, right?
Yeah.
And did you watch First Man? I think you did.
I haven't seen First Man yet.
Well, spoilers. I'm going to ruin some shit for you.
I mean, isn't it a historical drama about...
Yes, it is. But as we know, artists have the ability for artistic license, right? And so thematically, the movie itself is not just a factual retelling about Neil Armstrong going to the moon and the science and stuff and how they did it. There is a subplot. You can almost call it the main plot, but it's mostly a subplot, I would say. It's the underpinnings of the overall story. Neil Armstrong loses a kid very early in the movie before any of this shit is happening, and he's grieving in a way that no one else really understands. And they almost get like, his wife gets mad at him for it, and people are worried about him because he hasn't cried and all this kind of stuff. And he's very private man. He doesn't, say a lot of things publicly, and he can be kind of shrewd when people try to push him to be emotional, and he's not. And he goes to the moon, spoiler, and he leaves a part of the kid's like toy or something, I forget, on the moon. And like that was like a very big like character resolve for him. It was like, oh, I did this, in the memory of my kid, and that, something from my kid will forever be on the moon, and that makes them important, and they were here, and it's proof that they were here, and da 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 da. And then you look at the fucking news cycle where all they're talking about is, oh, we don't see the moment where Neil Armstrong plants the fucking flag on the moon. How can you not do that? That's everything. That's the most important thing. Rah, rah, America, USA, USA. And the movie is not about USA, USA. The movie is about this guy who's dealing and grieving with loss and all of that. But they went out and spoiled that the movie doesn't focus on that particular thing. Now, is the fucking flag on the moon at the end of the movie? Yup, they show it. They just do not show him sticking it in the ground and make a big deal about it. They make a big deal about the other thing. So I say that. Now, that's like selective spoilerism, because that's just political talking points and trying to, tank stock of a film because they donated to a Democratic candidate or some shit like that. But the point I'm making is that selective spoiling took out of context the rest of the movie. So nobody really, a lot of people boycotted the movie. They reacted poorly. When in fact, and you know this because I made you watch Whiplash, Damien Chazelle is a fantastic fucking filmmaker. When he makes a movie, it's a good fucking movie. And they're missing out on a fantastic movie because something was spoiled for them, and they misinterpreted it poorly out of context from the rest of the thing. And that was one of the real turning points. Like, I had stopped I'd given up, I'd left the leaker game by that point that I'd seen that movie. But that was really a turning point for me as a person to no longer want to watch or spoil things about a movie for myself in advance. Now, granted, I just admitted, I was very curious about the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield thing. That was fun. But for the most part, I am not a spoiler hound the way that I used to be. Like we just got a Hocus Pocus trailer today. I am in no way, shape, or form wanting to know any spoilers about that movie. Scream came out a couple of months ago, right? The brand new one. Well, I don't know when you're listening to this, audience member, but it was like 2022. And in the entire build up to that movie, I wanted to know nothing. I don't want to know spoilers for a Scream movie because that's what you go to the fucking movie for. And I asked myself this when they first announced that the movie was really legitimately happening, which was, why do you go to a Scream movie? You go for the mystery. You go to find out who the killer is at the end. You don't want to fucking know before you go. Yeah. That's pointless. And so the question really comes down to, isn't that every movie? Isn't that every story? Do you really, you always have that asshole friend, and I use that term friend in a fun way, who's always like, just tell me what happens. Just tell me what happened. My wife is frequently that person who's sitting next to me watching something that she knows I've already watched. And she's like, is he going to kill the kid? And I'm just like, you got to watch to find out. Just tell me, is he going to kill the kid? And it's like, no, watch the fucking movie.
Right.
And so I guess the question I'm asking you is that not the reason why we watch stories, is to experience those things from the stories themselves and not somebody regurgitating it to us in poor execution out of context? Aren't all spoilers bad? I know this is a big question.
I avoid them as best as I can. Like, even a lot of times trailers sort of give away.
Oh yeah, the trailers are big fucking guilt.
I get annoyed by a lot
crime.
of trailers because I'm just like, oh, I already know what happens in this movie. I shouldn't have even bothered. But like, I do find that the movies that I end up enjoying the most are ones that either have extremely like enigmatic trailers where I can't figure out what the movie's going to be about, or like I haven't heard anything about it. Like it's some foreign film that just like showed up in the theater for this one week, and I'll go and watch it because I'm going in with nothing. Like I just like, oh, it's a movie. I read the plot synopsis, where the plot. I mean, it's just like whatever the market, the market and advertising plot summary, right? Where it's just like, this is a movie about a down and out so and so got more than he's bargained for, and that's it. So when I go in with that, like it's kind of nice because it's like, oh, I have no expectations. I have no like idea of what the fuck I'm about to get. Speed Racer, that movie was a great one where it was just like I had no clue what they were doing, how they were going to do it, like what was going to happen. And I had a great time. I do think that for any media, I would prefer to have that experience. It's weird because I feel like video games are one of those areas where it's not like that at all lately. Where the way to advertise video games is almost the way that you'd like advertise a car, where they will show you every little feature and thing that you can do in the video game to the point where it's like, well, why do I even need to play it now? Like you told me what I can do in this game. I can just imagine that. What's the point of playing the video game? And I don't understand that form of advertising, and then I also do, because I do think that there is sort of a concept in advertising that in order to sell something to somebody, you have to give them very direct knowledge of what it is that they're going to be spending their money on.
And that's important.
Yeah, and that becomes more of a thing when money's harder to come by too. So like
right now.
Like right now economically things aren't so great in the year 2022. And inflation's kind of running rampant right now. So like people kind of want to know what they're going to be spending their money on before they buy something. So like I definitely understand why that mentality would exist, which you could make predictions about too. Like people will be more willing to go see a movie they don't know anything about or play a game that they don't know anything about when money isn't tight. And then when money is tight, people want to know everything because they don't want to waste their money.
Correct.
So, could see spoilers become more of that's actually an interesting thing I never even thought about, because like, the height of spoilers was post 2008, and that was when
recession, right?
Yeah, it was after the recession. So like people really wanted to know what they were going to be putting their money and time into, and so they wanted to know every little thing about the movie so that they could assess whether or not it was going to be a good movie before they went to go see it. And that mentality went away for a while, and I suspect it'll come back again in like full tilt over the next year or so as we kind of re-enter a similar period.
That's interesting. I never even thought to think of it like that, but you're absolutely right. And there was another question I was going to ask you about spoilers. Now I'm forgetting what it was. Oh, this is a good one. And this is one that pisses me off all the time. What do you think? So let's operate this question under a hypothetical that spoilers are okay, almost inevitable, right? They're like COVID. It's gonna touch you eventually. You're not gonna be able to, right? That's the same way you can look at spoilers the way you look at COVID. It's like you're never gonna get away from it. It's gonna happen. The question really is in terms of one's personal morality, right? How long after something has been released officially, like a movie is premiered, comic book has released, whatever it may be, is it appropriate to publicly, in public forums, discuss spoiler things? Because I am of the mind, personally, this is just my own personal thing, never. Because there is always someone who has not experienced it yet,
Sure.
who is yet to experience it for the first time. And I get combated a lot. So when people run around going, "Oh, Luke, I am your father," or posting pictures of the killers from Scream, that's the one that fucking kills me. When they, and again, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, Billy and Stu are the killers in the first Scream movie. People will post pictures of them blatantly and be like, "Oh, who are your favorite Scream killers?" Blah 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 blah. And to me, for the longest time, that didn't bother me. And now I have a son. I have a kid. And I'm realizing at some point I'm going to want to show him Scream. It's one of my favorite movies. I don't want him to fucking know that Billy and Stu are the killers before we sit down and watch it for the first time. Like, shut the fuck up. Why are you doing that? I don't want my son to know that Darth Vader is Luke's father when we first sit down and watch Empire Strikes Back. I want him to experience that in real time. I don't want some smack asshole telling my kid that. I want him to have the fun of experiencing that. So I don't care that the movie's 20, 30 years old now. It's like, shut the fuck up and let somebody else enjoy something that you have already enjoyed. It's not fair to newer generations. This is the same reason why and I'm getting on a rant tangent here, but
no, it's funny because I was thinking about that moment when Luke discovers that Darth Vader's his dad. And I remember when I watched that as a kid, I was just like, but why? Like, I didn't, it wasn't like shock. I was just like, yeah, but why? I don't understand. Like, why does that make sense in the story?
The thing that I got mad about was when people were talking about when they were rebooting both Batman and Spider-Man. The age-old complaint comes up. Do we really have to see Uncle Ben get killed again? Do we really have to watch the Waynes get murdered again? It's like, motherfucker, some 12-year-old kid is sitting down to watch his first Batman movie, and he's got to know why Batman is Batman. Like, that's the fucking point. So I don't think we get the right to complain or to ruin that for people who are just now entering the cultural landscape, the zeitgeist, if you will, whatever it may be, or labeled.
I mean, my issue with that is it just makes it impossible then to talk about stories because
right, which is a double-edged sword. You can't discuss art, which art is meant to be discussed. But at the same time,
I mean, I understand the ethics behind what you're saying, because I do think that you could potentially fuck up like a person's ability to enjoy a story. That being said, like I don't know, like I've said, I've enjoyed plenty of stories knowing full well what's going to happen within the realm of the plot. And I'm kind of the opinion that knowing the plot is not the same thing as experiencing the story itself. Like, I kind of always feel like that's kind of the point of that mentality of it's not the story that's important, it's how you tell the story. Because, like, everybody knows what happens in Passion of the Christ. But if you haven't seen Passion of the Christ, you haven't actually watched the movie, because it's a totally different interpretation of these events that everybody fucking knows front to back because they've heard it like a million goddamn times.
Yeah.
So, like, you have... And on a certain level, everybody kind of knows what happens within any story, given the way that stories are formatted in a lot of Western storytelling, right? Like, we kind of know, like, oh, okay, we're going to have...
Save the cat.
Yeah, we're going to have that format. So, like, maybe that's... And I think that's how I look at it, is, like, I'm not necessarily worried about whether or not I'm going to listen to the song without knowing what's going to happen next, so much as am I going to actually enjoy listening to the song? Because, like, songs are really interesting in that way, in particular, where you can listen to a song a million times. It's kind of fresh every time. There's always kind of new things to discover. And there are definitely songs that lose their freshness, right? Like, I have to have more time between replays of, like, Led Zeppelin albums now, because I've listened to Led Zeppelin so fucking much. Whereas, something that's newer, like I'm more willing and wanting to listen to it more often. But after a while, yeah, it'll wear out, It's the same with movies. Like, you can watch a movie a million times over, and eventually it kind of wears out in terms of its appeal. Were you going to say something, Joe?
No, I'm thinking about like music and how a first experience to music can sometimes be just like a movie. So like a movie,
Yeah.
like all of a sudden, like fucking Andrew Garfield shows up in Spider-Man No Way Home. You get that. One of the big things on the internet these days is audience reaction videos, right? You don't get that if you know Andrew Garfield is in the movie. You don't get those audience reaction movies if you know Tony Stark survives getting stabbed by Thanos in Infinity War. Mm-hmm. That whole fucking moment when everybody goes, oh, that gasp, that reaction. Same thing does happen in music sometimes. I think specifically, I think about battle rap. If you've ever listened to Eminem do a battle rap, like in one of his more recent ones, he was going after this rapper named MGK, and he talks about how Puff Daddy had Pac shot. He put out a hit on him. And if someone told you ahead of time, oh, Eminem says Puff Daddy had Tupac killed, that takes away from the moment when Eminem actually says it in the song, because nobody has ever fucking said that in a song. And Eminem saying it means so much more, that when he says that, and it's literally like at the end of the song, it's a mic drop. That's the moment you go, fuck, this battle is over. MGK is dead. Rest in peace. It's fucking done. You don't get that same reaction. You know what I mean? So like, when you re-listen to the song, it loses its impact because you know he says it. But if you don't know when you're listening to it, then it hits that much more. So I don't know. I feel like it I don't know. It's just it's hard for me to quantify what I'm trying to get at.
Something I was just thinking about is like, is the new thing people trying to spoil the particular reaction videos of particular celebrities to movies? So now we just go like another level of spoiling, where it's like somebody tells you how somebody reacts to spoilers about to a reaction to a movie.
Well, I've done that before. I've said that when I've spoiled things for myself. I've told my friend, who I usually go like to see the movie with, I'll tell a buddy, I'll be like, I'm not going to tell you what I saw, but oh shit, man, my jaw hit the floor when I saw this. Da, 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 da. And it was one of those instances, you know what I mean? Like that's just kind of like hype building mostly, but I don't know, like, because then at the end, after we watch it, he goes, which part was it that made your jaw hit the floor? I was like, oh, when fucking Mr. Fantastic showed up in Doctor Strange. Like, you know what I mean? Like that becomes a talking point after the fact, but I'd never ruined anything for him. He never knew that was what it was going to be.
But so, no, I definitely understand the appeal to the idea that like enjoying a piece of media should be the spontaneous in first time experience. And I definitely I do think that it's good to look at it as sort of a sacred thing for every individual, but it is also impossible to maintain.
Right. Like we talked about, it's inevitable that it is going to touch you at some point. But I don't know. I feel like we as a culture should be trying not to be so blatant about things.
The reason why culturally we don't do that is because we want to be aware of every little thing going on at any given time, because we don't want to be surprised. It's funny.
We are an anxiety-based generation, that's for sure.
Individually, we like surprises, but collectively, we hate them, because collectively, surprises mean potential danger, means potential inability to protect ourselves from things we might not expect. I mean, you could look at that as the collective outrage that happened after the 2016 election. That was a surprise nobody saw coming, and it has completely changed the way politics is organized from that point on. And now there are other political surprises that are happening within
last week.
within the last week that will also continue to change political alignments in the country. So what I'm saying is, like, I think to a certain extent the spoiler attitude is linked to a deep
human condition. It's
it is definitely.
It's primal. That's the word I'm looking for.
It's
primal.
definitely a deep human condition to kind of know what's happening at any given point in time, so that we're not besieged by the quote unquote unknown.
I feel like there's two types of people, though. There are the people that react with, and I use this term in a non-judgmental way. There are people who react with fear and cowardice, and there are people who react with bravery and I don't know what another adjective is to throw in there. But like when Trump was elected, my brain went, all right, let's see what happens. Versus, oh my God, Trump got elected, we're all gonna die. My instinct is, I want to go skydiving. I want to jump out of the plane. I have that adrenaline junkie gene, and I've done that. And I've done that with everybody telling me don't do it. My dad looked at me and said, please don't jump out of a plane. He was sincerely concerned for my well-being and safety. Please don't do it. My mom was like, you're gonna chicken out. You're gonna do it. She was trying to like inception me out of doing it. My wife was shaking when I got on the plane. Like, they were all worried that something was going to happen. Me, I got on that plane and goes, well, if I go, I go. that's the mindset I approached it with. And obviously I'm still here. I don't know, as an artist, I feel like, and this, again, I'm not being judgmental using this word. It's going to sound like I am. Trigger warnings and safe spaces and things of that nature that you could easily apply to spoilers, being within that realm of, as we're defining that need for emotional security.
Yeah,
they're bad for you. Like, you should experience things that you don't like. You should experience things that you're afraid of, and that's how you get out stronger in terms of things. That's how you build muscle. Like, you have to build muscle by breaking your muscles down with painful, destructive techniques and things. That's what lifting weights is. You are breaking down your muscles so that they rebuild and rebuild stronger. Now, I'm not saying go out there and set yourself on fire because your skin will come back better. No, you'll die. There's definitely a line and a balance that needs to be struck. I
definitely get your point. I feel like, I will say though, I feel like content warnings are pretty much indistinguishable from like MPAA ratings, where it's like, you know, this is rated R because there's going to be like drug usage, foul language, sexual content, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's the same idea, just applied to people's tweets and social media posts. That people want to do that. I don't do that. I don't think that's something I'm ever going to do. That people want to do that, that's kind of their prerogative, right? I do. Once again, it kind of goes back to this idea of protectiveness in safety, where people want to be fully aware of everything that's going to happen in the next preceding moments that they have any kind of control over, which, if you want to get into the philosophy of that, you have zero control over it. But anyway, I mean,
right,
you really have zero control over what happens within any given moment in front of you in the future,
even with a warning.
Yeah, even with a warning, like you're always presently having to respond to what happens. You're never going to like be 100% prepared. And I know that my attitude's similar to yours, where it's like, really, ultimately, if you're going to live your life and you're going to live it in any kind of way that works, you have to sort of just give up on being afraid of death, because it's common. Like, that's
yeah.
spoilers, we're all gonna die. Like that's just what happens. Like it may not be within the normal span of a human lifetime necessarily for many people
Yep.
if medical technology goes the way it goes, but like it's gonna happen eventually. So like what you want to do is you want to live your life where if you know that that is assumed, everything else becomes sort of this pleasant surprise of like, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen in my life, like I didn't think I was going to like this experience, or
Sure.
I didn't think that what I planned was going to work out the way that it worked out.
And I think
like,
that's an important thing to note, is that sometimes, and we talked about context earlier, but that's the same thing, where your reaction to a alternate execution of an idea is an alternate reaction to that idea. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
if I told you a spoiler, your reaction to it is the reaction to the way I told you. It's not the reaction to the thing that I told you as it happened, right?
Yeah.
It's a very subjective type of thing. So in reality, it goes back like to what you were saying, where you're never actually fully prepared for anything, even with a warning. So my mindset has always been, it's important to experience pain and things that you're afraid of, because, and this goes to the topic that I think you had wanted to touch upon tonight, but we really didn't know how to flesh it out, which was repetitive, or repetition as a thing in art. Whereas when you're watching a movie, you watch it one time. You can experience something more often than not. It happens one time within a thing, maybe 2 or 3 times if they are doing a repetitious thing in it. But repetition is one of those things where the true emotional harm and trauma can be inflicted on somebody, right? Like that's really where the heart of it is. Like I'm not saying that, one time big deal things can't be traumatic.
Yeah.
But when you're watching something safe, like in a movie theater or a TV show or a book or whatever medium you're consuming, you consume it once. And that to me is a safe way to experience something so that you can meditate on it afterwards. Because that's what I do. Like I'm analyzing things afterwards in my brain, and I have the choice as to whether or not I want to re-experience that movie now and watch it and subject myself to that trauma over and over again. So for example, have you ever seen the movie Martyrs? Have I made you watch that yet? The French horror movie?
No, I haven't seen it.
You should watch this French horror movie called Martyrs. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. This is the weirdest sentence that I've ever said explaining this movie to people. It was one of the greatest movies that I have ever seen, but I will not watch it again. And that's very weird to say that for me, because anytime I watch a movie that I love and I think is fantastic, I will re-watch the shit out of it. You know firsthand how many times I watched Batman Begins, right, to the point that the DVD wore itself out. I will not watch Martyrs anymore. I've watched it. I've consumed it. I experienced it. It was traumatic. And I took away from it what it wanted me to take away from it again. And I don't need to experience that trauma again. That said, I am glad that I experienced it. You know what I mean? Like I walked away from it going, ooh, but I really did love the overall takeaway from it. And I cannot wrap my brain around people who will spoil things for things and then not experience them because they're too afraid of them. As an artist, when I make a piece of art, right, whether it's digits or haunted, I have an intention when I go in there. Now, we've talked about before how the artist's intention is, what's the phrase that I keep using lately? Intentional fallacy, right? Where it doesn't matter what my intention is, it's about how you consume it. But I'm definitely going to try to subject my will upon you. And every time I do something in a movie, it's for a reason. I want you to get pissed off while watching my movie. I want you to hate that fucking character for saying that. I want you to be concerned if that actor was really subjected to that in real life. Like, I want you to go through that, because that is part of the journey I'm taking you on. And not to get long-winded upon this and skew into a tangential thing, because this is one of my favorite seasons of the year. We're not there yet, but I'm ready for it. In October, there's something called haunts, right? This is what I based Haunted off of. They're the haunted houses we go through, the haunted trails in the woods, the haunted hay rides, all of those things. Why do people do that? You know you're going to get traumatized going through this. You know there's going to be a masked man with a chainsaw up in your face, screaming, coming out of the dark, out of the blue, no warning, etc. They're going to scare the shit out of you. They're going to give your kids nightmares. They're going to make you shake, physically shake, where you cannot, contain yourself. Why do people subject themselves to that? Because we know in our brain we're safe, right? Like, that's where we go. And when we get out of it, and I've studied the shit out of this for the sake of my movie, the reason we go to these things is we go to experience death and to awaken adrenaline in our bodies and to feel like we're really living in a knowledge and in a way that we know is safe, so that when we come out, we feel stronger, we feel braver, we feel bolder, we feel confident, like we accomplished something. And that can be something that you can take with you into the day of your life, the next day at work. Like, you go to a haunt on a Sunday and you go into work on a Monday, you're a little bit more able to go up to your boss and ask for that raise. Do you know what I mean? Like that is necessary trauma. And so I feel like when we do art, we should not be robbing the audience of things like that when we put up warnings about things. Now, like an epilepsy warning, okay, that's one thing. But the fact that, this person gets, beat up or like killed or something, like I don't understand. I feel like we're not neutering, but eliminating the purpose of art and storytelling by doing that. I don't know. Do you have thoughts? Like, do you disagree?
Well, I mean, the first thought that I had was, it's kind of funny because the reason that you had for why people go to haunts is also the same reason why people do shrooms or DMT, and it is like to have that experience that ultimately, not only you have sort of a encounter with death, but also you have sort of a life affirming experience afterwards.
When you say an encounter with death, do you mean like come to the edge of like overdosing or something?
No, I mean like there are a lot of instances where you might have experiences with like ego death, where you may not physically die, but you either feel like your sense of self is dissolved to where you might as well be dying.
They call it depression, Rainwater.
No, it's different from depression.
Okay.
It's a very different and distinct thing from depression. It's very difficult to describe because it's usually not a negative like experience.
Okay.
It's often more of an experience of just like, oh, all of like my anxieties and all the things that sort of run in the back of my head fall out. I'm just experiencing what's in front of me in a very in as objective a way as possible.
Okay.
Where your bullshit falls away for a little bit. And it is a kind of death because a part of you that you're very familiar with is gone for a little bit. It does come back, but it's like gone for a little while, and you sort of find yourself in unfamiliar territory within your own body, which can be scary. Like that can be scary for a lot of people. I know that I've had experiences with shrooms where I had this moment where it felt like for me, I had to re-download everything that was in my brain before the trip. I was like, oh yeah, like this is how cooking works. And I forgot about these things. And that's kind of what I mean in regards to ego death, where it's just like your brain, a part of your brain that sort of maintains yourself is shut off for a while, and a whole other part of your brain's just kind of like going around, and doing its thing. And so point is the ultimate point about all that is when you're confronted with unfamiliar territory, you have the opportunity for life-changing experiences, which that can happen at a haunt. I mean, I think that's kind of the reason why there are a lot of Christian groups who use that setting to like do I can't remember what they call hell houses. I think that's what they're called, where it's like they do very scary scenarios, but it's like very obviously Christian theme, where it's like these people committing these sins and look at what happens to them because of the ramifications of their sins.
Yeah.
Because they recognize that there's a powerful sort of manipulative or coercive element to art that you can use to get people to act in certain ways that you want them to act, where you make them afraid of doing certain activities that you think are sinful or whatever. And a lot of ways that happens too in movies where a lot of times the people that are portrayed as villains are often people that society looks down upon for this or that reason, right? So anyway, like going back to spoilers, because this sort of gets a little bit out of this is a whole other rabbit hole. One that I don't know if I know how to properly segue into. I think it's interesting. I definitely think it's interesting what you're posing, which is like, how important is the sanctity of like keeping something fresh for everybody else?
Mm.
And I don't know if it's important enough that I'm going to stop talking about stories that I want to talk with people about. Like I will be like, if somebody is around who hasn't seen it and I know they haven't seen it, I'll be like, hey, look, I'm about to spoil this because I need to talk about this particular plot point.
Mm.
So if you don't want to hear it, please leave the room, right? But like, at a certain point, I'm also kind of the opinion that like, there's only so much that I can do to like prevent the collateral damage of just talking about a story with somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at in regards to that.
Okay, that's fair. Let's take a quick tangent, and I know we're wrapping up, but I just really want you put this in my brain. I just need to talk to you quickly about the Jenny Nicholson video where she goes hard on an hour and 20 minutes of Christian adaptations in the form of cultural of whatever's happening in the zeitgeist at the moment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not watched this video, please go to Jenny Nicholson's YouTube page, and there is a video. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long about a Christian church in Canada that does Easter plays every year and adopts the Easter story into musicals based on pop culture phenomena. So like there's an Avengers one where Iron Man is Jesus. There is another one where Marty McFly is Jesus from Back to the Future. There's another one, and this is my favorite one, where it's Michael Jackson as Robin. No, is it Michael No. Yeah, it's Michael Jackson as Robin Hood versus Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
I can't even explain this.
Yeah, but I'm about to. I don't want to spoil it because one of the funniest moments of that video is how they deal with sort of the Michael Jackson Jesus correlation. It's something that you just need to watch to understand. It's really funny.
Yeah. But I needed to talk about that with you because I woke up on Sunday morning and found that video and I was like, an hour and 20-minute video. 10 minutes in, I was like, well, I hope my wife's cooking pancakes because I'm not getting out of bed for this. I'm not getting out of bed because I'm sucked into this.
It is one of those things where like I'm fascinated. I mean, me being somebody who's into crappy stuff anyway, I was fascinated, and I think in the same way that the the producer of the video is fascinated in it, because it is like, how are they gonna, how do they do all these, how are they gonna do this next iteration? Like, how are they gonna change all these little format things, and like, how do they make this story that they keep repeating fresh?
It's actually a very informative thing for an artist to look at and say, wow, they took the same exact story and dressed it up differently, and they told it over and over again, and it can work. I mean, I don't think they make it work, but
no, they try really hard to bend it in such a way where it's not entirely certain whether or not, this character is Jesus and this character is whatever. Like, you really have to kind of stitch it together after the play is done, basically.
Yeah. But it is an interesting watch, and I would definitely recommend someone go and check it out. Spoiler alert, it's good. That's about it for us, I guess, this episode. We didn't really go too hard on spoilers, which I'm glad about, but I will probably list the movies, and I will listen to this again before I post it, and I will list the things that we spoil. So spoilers on the spoilers in the description. So that way, if you're trying to avoid something, hopefully we didn't ruin it for you. Next week, I'm gonna put this out there. Spoiler alert. Next week, I don't know if Rainwater can still see me. He just sent me a message that said I cut out, but I'm gonna keep going. And I think next week, I am going to make Rainwater talk about Atlanta. I think it's time. Rainwater, can you hear me? He can't hear me. I'm going to end this. So we're going to talk about Atlanta. And Rainwater doesn't know it yet, but you guys do. So we'll talk to you guys soon. Goodbye.